Okay, so here's a quick down and dirty for perspective for Nick. Nick, if you want, if you want to draw a building, for instance, in the background, imagine your horizon line. The horizon line is, of course, where the land meets the sky, the horizon, if you will. And so you want to draw a building. What you need to remember about buildings on the horizon line, or buildings in perspective, is that all of the east and west lines will be on the same plane, and all the north and south lines will be on the same plane. So if in our horizon here, if north is this way, then your north and south lines, your north and south is going to be square to you. So you're not going to see any of the sides of it. So that's all you're going to see, is that right there. If any part of it is below the horizon and any part of it is above the horizon, then it's dead on. You're not going to see any of it, because your east and west lines then are going to go back to a point directly behind you, because that is where you're looking. So let's say this is the point in the background where you're looking, which is directly in front of you. So if you can imagine, you can see through this block, your lines are going to go from each of the corner. So your east and west walls are here, right? And then let's see if I can find an eraser here. I'm going to erase all this stuff here so that you can see what I'm talking about. When I erase all that out of there, then you can see that it's in perspective, but it's directly in front of you. You are looking through it. I'm going to put the horizon line back in there. You are looking through it at that point. And if you move the building over, if you move the structure over here, because you are still standing over here looking this way, if you look over here, this east and west line is still going to be on the same plane. So it's still going to go to that same dot over there, right? And this one will too, to that exact same dot. And so if you add your walls in, if you pretend that you can see through, if you add your walls in, they're going to go like that. And then if I erase the lines that don't matter, you can see, oh, I'm sure you can see what I'm talking about there. You can see that that it's in perspective, because it's all on the same plane. Now, if you make your building below the horizon, if you make your building over here below the horizon, these sidewalls are still going to go to that same point. So you can see an imaginary line going from there to there, an imaginary line going from there to there, an imaginary line going from there to there, imaginary line going from there to there. And then however deep you want to make your building, make your lines in the same fashion. And then let's erase the lines that don't matter. These are the lines that don't matter. So you can see that it's in perspective to that spot. And if your building is taller, I'm going to erase a whole building this time. If your building is taller than the horizon line, well, let's put the horizon line back first. All right, now let's make our building taller than the horizon line. Well, taller won't really make any difference, because let's say the building is above the horizon line. Let's say the building is floating. That's really what we want to mean. It's a floating building. It's a spaceship. It's a Borg vessel, if you will. Then in perspective, all of the east and west lines are going to go to this same dot over here, because that's where your eye is in perspective. And even the bottom one, you're going to see on the bottom one, we'll go here and here. And they'll all line up in the same fashion. And all of your north and south lines then will be north and south, will be directly north and south. And all of your vertical lines will be directly vertical, north and south, north and south. And then if I just reinforce these lines, then you can see that this board cube is in perspective. And it's above the horizon line, so you can see below it. This is below the horizon line, so you can see the top of it. This bisects the horizon line, so you can see the top and the bottom of it. And the sides of the walls that you can see all go back to this same point. Now, let's get rid of all of that, and let's put another horizon line on there. And let's look at another scenario. You're looking at a building, but you're not looking at it. You're not looking at it dead on. One of the corners of the building is closer to you than the other corner, and so this building is not going north and south. It's going northeast by southwest, if you will. So the front of the building now is facing this way, and there'll be a dot somewhere way over there that this will line up to. Well, this side of the building is going to go to that same dot. So wherever that dot is, this side of the building is going to go to that same dot, and your back side is going to still be strictly vertical, and then this wall is going to be somewhere over here, depending on the size of the building. You know, you just pick one, and you draw your lines in like this, and then you have to imagine then the size of your building. And so now your building looks like this. And I'll tell you what we can do. Let's add another layer. Right? We'll add another layer, and we'll change pens. We'll change to a brush. And then you can see exactly what I'm talking about, because it'll completely isolate it. This is what comic book artists do. When they ink their drawings, they sketch everything in and then they ink it. And then you can see that if you put a door in, let's go back to the first layer. If you put a door in, then that door, the top of that door, is still going to go to that spot. If you put windows in, if you want to put windows in, then the tops of those windows still has to go to that same spot. So then when you go back and you do your inking, let's go back to our other layer. When you go back in and you ink it, then your door is still going to follow those same lines. Your window is still going to follow those same lines. Same thing over here. If you're going to draw a window, then that window, the top of that window is going to be on those same lines. Your vertical lines will still be vertical, but your horizontal lines, which are not truly horizontal anymore, they're horizontal to your building, will go back to your vanishing points. These are called vanishing points, and they move with your building. So because you're not looking directly on, it depends on where you're looking. If you draw another building over here, then its vanishing points are going to be somewhere else. So when you draw in your building, you're going to keep your lines on your vanishing points, so that it's in perspective. I hope that helps. That's just a real quick down and dirty on your vanishing points. And if you want to see it, if you look at it in 3 dimensions, if you want to see it see through, then you remember that this is going to go to this same vanishing point as this one, right? But your horizontal lines are still going to, your vertical lines are still going to be vertical. This line back here is still going to go to that same vanishing point over here. which if you've done it right, means that this line is going to bisect from here and go straight to your vanishing point. And this line will go from here and it'll bisect your corner and it'll go straight back to your vanishing point. So that's how you know where to put it. Is that these lines will go to the same vanishing point as these lines. I'm going to change colors so I can illustrate that a little better. The lines that will be on the same vanishing point. Well, that didn't work. Color, color, color. This line is on the same vanishing point as this line. And this line is on the same vanishing point as this line. So really, all four of those lines have the same vanishing point. Yeah, that's right. Let's go back to red. All four of those lines have the same vanishing point. These lines all have the same vanishing point. And these lines all have the same, there's a button on my stylus. These lines all have the same vanishing point. And these lines are all perfectly vertical. Anyway, I hope that helps.